No, if you got something to say about something, run up here. No! You want to say about something, run up here.
He's on deck, man. He's on deck, all right?
No, run up here. No, how about you? Fuck you.
Pete, can we get you up on stage, please?
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to pretend we're starting.
Okay.
Hello, the world out there. Hello, pedal crazy people. Mick, how can I help you? What?
I just asking Dan if he's posting. I'm posting now. Good.
I don't know what Dan and Mick are doing. They use technology I am not privy to. Ah, yes, you should let your people know that we are on the Warwick Framers channel. Warwick Framers, well, if I say it, they're already hearing it, so my message doesn't help. So we have, I'm going to start way over there because he didn't want to sit there. That's what you get. We have Robert Keeley here. He knows a thing or two about pedals. And Mick Taylor from that pedal show. TC Torre. And I gotta say it, I'm sorry, it's Pedal Jesus, come on. Come on. And we got Sean Pierce Johnson from Very Clever Sean Pierce Johnson. So he's got a show called Stompbox Saturdays on Sean Pierce Johnson. Tune in, hit subscribe because the guy's awesome. And, well, you know, the other guy from that show, Dan Steinhardt. Got a question. I'm looking for the frickin' questions. Got a question for Dan. Proco Rat, real fuzz or high gain distortion? I'm gonna kick your ass later.
Yes.
No, come on!
It all depends on the rig. The pedals don't make a sound. It depends on what they're going into. Okay, if you've got a Fender Twin, Proco Rat. If you've got a Marshall Plexi, real fuzz, or if you, what was the other one? Proco Rat, real fuzz, or heavy distortion, was it?
Look at the questions. Proco Rat, colon, and then real fuzz or high gain distortion. I think they want to know what the rat is.
Oh, what is the rat? Ah, okay.
I didn't read the colon. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna pass on this one.
Is the Proco?
Yeah, you're live, Robert.
Yeah, it's clearly a distortion, right? It's got high gain, clipping, and stuff like that. I think it's not in the fuzz area. The fuzz arena to me is a little bit softer edges, rounded edges. This is a high gain, clipping type pedal. So I call Rat heavy distortion.
Okay, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now questions are coming in. Bass-centric pedals for guitar and vice versa.
Bass-centric? Like, so using bass pedals on guitar or using guitar?
The other way around.
Okay. I love using any kind of chorus on, especially the bass 6. That's like the cure right there for me, and that's right up my alley. Phasers sound great. They don't have to be tailored for the guitar or bass. You can use whatever. It's really just up to whatever the hell you want to do. There are no rules.
Well, let's go to Toro with this, because they have the hypergravity, which you can tailor to guitar or bass, but then they have the Spectracomp, right? The smaller one, which they say is only for bass, but it's based on the same technology.
It is, so, I think that I totally agree. There are certain pedals where it doesn't make any, there's no difference. They'll sound cool either way. And then there are certain pedals where it makes sense to differentiate, because bass pedals, or basses have a different frequency range. So there are certain pedals where it makes sense that you want to change some things around. So compressors, for example, there are different frequencies. And for us, we do 3-band compressors or multi-band compressors, and we want to split the signal in specific points. Same goes for octavers or harmonizers. or even tuners, because if you want to build a tuner that's very specific to guitar and works great for guitar, it has to listen in a certain frequency spectrum, unless you're Meshuggah. But apart from that, you would do something else for bass, because they have lower frequencies, but then they don't have as high frequencies. So there are differences, and there's a lot of things where it just makes sense to use, whatever works. Do you want to comment on that?
No, he's exactly right. The choruses are based on different frequencies to make them sound better with bass, same with flangers and stuff like that. Compressors, you want to pay attention to a certain area, so exactly what Tora said.
I'm going to pick this question because it's the one kind of question that everyone hates. So everyone's favorite drive at the moment.
There you go.
Very easy.
This is very easy for two people here on the panel.
It's very easy for me. It's the Robert Keeley D&M drive.
Come on, baby!
Actually, it is. It is.
You have the shirt on, dude.
It is. It is. Okay, so if we take that out of the equation, get the comments coming. It's the Klon Centaur.
Okay, go.
Should I?
Yeah.
Well, that's a tough one, because I pretty much never ever use drive pedals. I always use amp distortion. But but if I were to pick something, I'd just have. I'm really sorry about this, guys, but I had to just pick the Tube Screamer. I like that thing.
It's legit.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's been around for as long as it's been around, because it's the Tube Screamer. It sounds
and the
good.
guys from Ivan Respect, they're like, yeah.
But I'm going to have to throw another vote into the hat for the D&M. That thing just...
It's a fit up.
I need it in my life badly.
Oh, bless you. So
You want to hear?
if we can't, if the D&M drive's not allowed, I would say the Page overdrive boost from Kingsley pedals.
If I don't say D&M drive, then I look really stupid, right? Gut feeling Walrus Audio Warhorn.
Ah, nice. Very nice.
Because it's called Warhorn. Robert?
I don't know. There's a couple that I like. I actually always like the Timmy. That's a good favorite to me. And, of course, I'm pretty partial to the D&M drive. These guys came up with an incredible idea. So.
We have... What's the next step in the pedal world in terms of original stuff? I know it can't be answered, but do it anyway.
Originality in pedals, in my opinion, is over. You can only take the same circuit and do it so many ways. I can't think of another way that anybody could do a Tube Screamer. People have put 3-band EQs, they put parametric EQs on it. I mean, there's only one way to get a signal to clip. And you can do hard, you can do soft. There's so many different things that you could do, but it's been done. And I think what is going to be original is going to be people's applications of these different effects. Are you going to use a phaser the same way that Eddie Van Halen has used the phaser? Or are you going to use it for something different? Are you going to use the big muff for the huge, loud, and big whale-like sound that it is? Or are you going to try and just turn the gain down and maybe instead of making it really brash, make it as dark as it will possibly go? The originality is going to be in exploration. That's my opinion.
Can I hate to be the... Apart from the fact that I've invented a new effect here, some sort of weird reverb, I'm not entirely sure I agree.
Yeah, I think
is that better? Okay.
Always an SM58.
Oh, yeah.
Sound engineer says always an SM58.
We'll pass that around, and hopefully that's better. I'm not entirely sure I agree. I definitely agree that in the guitar community, and I'm really guilty of that as well, I like all the old stuff, and there's a certain satisfaction in kicking on a Tube Screamer or a fuzz phase or a space echo or whatever it is. All these things that we all know and we all have as like, it's like collective consciousness of you. We all know how those sound, but I still think there's plenty of ways that we can innovate and do cool new things. And whether it's sounds or ways of manipulating sounds, oh God. He warned me he was going to do that. I don't know why.
Marco, people.
That's Marco. Thank you so much.
Hey, Marco.
And I actually have to drive home tonight, so Toby, last one, I promise. So yeah, all I want to say is I think there's plenty of things to do. I think there's plenty of opportunities for weird things to happen. I think, to be honest, sorry guys out there, I think the main obstacle is for guitar players to open their mind a little bit and actually embrace new things.
I would agree entirely and play the diplomat between the two arguments by saying that what these guys are doing is enabling what Sean is talking about. So these guys are making the user interface to a point where people like me don't have to deep dive through endless menus to have this kind of inspiration barrier between I have an idea and I want it to sound musical. These guys are shortening that journey for people like me. So I totally agree, Sean. It's about application, but in order to apply, you have to be able to do that. You have to feel inspired and you have to get from idea to sound as quickly as possible. And I think that's what you guys are doing with innovating pedals and user interface.
We were at NAMM this year and we were at the Pedal Builders party, and just the amount of creativity in that room was unbelievable. And everyone's mates and everyone gets along and everyone feeds ideas off each other, and it's fantastic. I think I absolutely understand what Sean was saying. I think part of the problem with that is that a pedal company will come up with something absolutely amazing and unique, and it'll sit there being unplayed by everyone because people are still, after the classic tones, and that's cool because these are the tones that we understand and we gravitate towards. But I think so when David Gilmour first started playing the 18-volt Electric Mistress, it wasn't a very well-known pedal. It wasn't even a really well-designed or made pedal. That you have a look at the PCB on an old Electric Mistress. It is like a 3-year-old had an Etch-a-Sketch, and it is an absolute disaster. But the thing has a sound and a vibe, and that became a really big part of his sound, and people gravitated towards that. I think a lot of these new, unique pedals, it takes artists to realise the sound that because it's one thing to have a unique sound, it's another thing to be inspired by that sound and create music. I am not interested in the sound that farts and beeps and just does all that sort of stuff. But if you can get me like the Data Corruptor, when I play that thing, I find it really inspiring. The next 2 or 3 years, we're going to see some really special, exciting things.
Robert?
Yeah, I agree that what Dan said, that it's the golden age. I've been saying that myself, and in really the same words. I think that with the certain DSP chips becoming more affordable and easily accessible to programmers and non-programmers, people can start to chase sounds that aren't in the Tube Screamer and aren't in just a simple clone. So I find it invigorating to understand how to combine sounds. So that's what we've been focusing on, is how to combine, say, some sort of dynamic envelope filter type of thing and a phaser or a flanger, or how do you make a one effect trigger the reverb on some other aspect of it, or trigger a compressor, or any number of things. So for me and my team, we might not have the interface capabilities that the wonderful stuff at TC Electronic without an S, TC Electronic has. But we do try to, create new sounds, pay attention to the folks that are on the internet who are not interested, today in Steve Ray Vaughan or what have you, but they are interested in getting inspired by new sounds. So they come to you and they say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this and this and this? And I take those considerations or suggestions seriously in combining ways to make sound making easily accomplished. I think just in the way that Jamie Stillman of Earthquaker has hit it on the head with his variety of new sounds. I think it is the golden age, and I think that it wants more people than just like the hologram. What was it called? What's the full name of the hologram?
It's the hologram by Infinite Jets.
Infinite Jets.
Yeah.
What a wonderful machine. And I think it has 2 spin DSP processors in it, and it just does an amazing amount of stuff. So I think that's actually a wave of what today's musicians want to do. So,
just listening to what everybody's saying, the one thing I can say, obviously, with people like Robert and people like Tor chasing new sounds, and me feeling like, is originality in pedals even a thing anymore? It's more, these guys have a certain way of working that when they want to go chase a sound, they have an idea of the steps they need to take. But I've talked to people who have given me these ideas where I'm thinking, how would you use that live? How would you use that in the studio? You realize that this particular sound you want might actually make your guitar sound to 90% of people pretty bad, and you might get way lost in the mix. Okay, if that's what you want, fine, but just understand these wacky ideas that some people come up with. And I love some circuit bent stuff. Devi Ever Fuzzes, man. Whew, that is some fun stuff. But I've heard so many silly ideas. It's just like, okay, we're just trying to be original for the sake of being different. We're not finding something that is going to inspire. And that, for me, I need to be inspired by a pedal. If it's a new sound, I'm all for it. But if it's some crazy idea that's just like, I hit an A chord and I don't feel something, 9 times out of 10, I know in 10 seconds whether or not I'm going to feel inspiration. And that's usually stuff that these guys make. Just some of the ideas that people have shared with me just make no sense in the grand scheme of things.
So bottom line is, most of us think there's still ways to go. Yeah. Sean doesn't.
It's no, it's not that I don't think.
And what I would say if I was one of these guys watching, I'd say, of course these guys think there's still ways to go because they've got shows, they need pedals, they're trying to sell them. Of course, that's how they make the living. Of course they want the pedal stuff to go on.
Well, at the same time,
wishful thinking.
With the workstation, I have chased a Gilmour sound for years because I love David Gilmour, and the Dark Side is just such an intuitively laid out pedal, and it just sounds freaking amazing. Like, it's all right there. You don't have to work for it. But it's a new sound to me because I can't afford a vintage Echo Rec.
So this is a good one. With the progress, digital pedals will surpass analog pedals? Will they?
No.
No.
No. No. I mean, sorry, bud.
I think it's the wrong question.
Yeah.
There are no answers, only better questions. Better. We've got a few people in the audience here, our fellow YouTubers and friends. Hands up who likes fuzz. Hands up who really doesn't like fuzz.
Yeah.
Okay, hands up who...
digital fuzz? Who likes digital fuzz?
Hands up who likes massive reverb. Hands up who doesn't really use reverb much. Yeah, okay, so what's better? There's no answer to what's better. It's what works for you. And we're going to step on some thin ice here.
Go out there, man. I'm right there with you.
Do it.
So from my perspective, I don't understand the ins and outs of pedal design. I do not understand DSP. I barely understand basic circuits. However, for the sounds that we're familiar with that are created in the digital domain, certain reverbs, certain delays, it seems that those sounds seem relevant because they've been made relevant in the digital domain, and that's how you've learned to hear them. If you've heard a fuzz face through a Marshall Plexi, if you've ever been lucky enough to experience that a few feet from that amp, the thought of that ever being created completely in the digital domain is still way beyond anything I can imagine, because I've never heard anything yet that gets even close. Not even nearly close, not even nearly close. So, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think... Never say never. It's not going to happen in the time that I'm still playing the guitar loud on stage with a Marshall Plexi.
I'll do a little comment on that, and obviously coming from the digital company, now that Strymon isn't here. Okay, so I agree actually, but I think that to me, in a certain way, the premise is a little bit wrong, because I find that what digital has been used for, especially in the guitar market so far, has been, oh, let's make something that's really inconvenient, like carrying a big tape echo or a big Marshall, or whatever it is you can think of, or just like a bunch of stuff. Instead of carrying all that stuff, let's try to see if we can make it sound the same and put it in one box, which is fine. I mean, there's definitely a lot of there's a lot of convenience in that, and there's companies out there, XFX, Kemper, all these guys. They're amazing at that. It sounds great, but you're trying to compare. You're really trying to compare something that's the original thing to something that's a copy. Exactly. And even to be honest, even if they got it exactly right, or even if we, as TC, because we do the same thing, even if we got it exactly right, there's still just the magic thing that doesn't really matter. It's not. It's a copy. So to me, the thing that matters the most, and what I want to, maybe I'll achieve it someday, but what I want to look at is what can we do in digital that has never been done in analog and can be done in analog to get some new sounds instead of just trying to replicate and try to copy what's there already.
And I'll just add to that to say, yeah, round of applause for Pedal Jesus. And I'll just add to that to say, and I think digital, as far as the guys who are into that classic tone, digital does get a bad rap. There's a whole generation of guitar players who wouldn't be playing guitar if it wasn't for the digital stuff. There's a whole generation of guitar players who have never plugged into a valve amp, and the fact that they can sit at home and get sounds that sound, great, is because the digital technology exists. Yeah. I'm of the generation who, when I was growing up doing gigs, valve amps is what we had. Listening to my favourite artists, it was all valve amps, and that's the sound that we go back to, and it's dynamic and it's interactive and it's wonderful. But the reason that a whole generation of guys are playing guitars is because they can go home, take out their phone, bring up an app that plugs wirelessly magically into their guitar, and just sit down and rock out. So yeah, I think it's exactly right. I think we need to change the reference, change the question. The digital stuff, how's it being used? It's fantastic for those guys that are starting out, learning to play guitar, want to get inspired. But I would say, and we're having this conversation with Pete Thorne before, for these young guys, once they've been through that stage, go and hire a rehearsal room, turn up a Marshall, and just experience being in a room with volume and sound pressure level with a real valve amp, But, just to echo those points before about the digital thing.
Do you want to come in on this, Robert?
I really kind of feel the same way that Tora was mentioning. What we enjoy doing is taking a digital sound, an effect that hasn't been done before. Can we... I saw a guy once comment about the golden age of What are the wooden panel stomp boxes again?
The Moogs?
Yes. Moog. Yeah. And he was like, man, that was the golden age, you know, where they had to really get in and do it all themselves. And I'm thinking, we had to really get in there and write all the code for this, too. We have to do it ourselves. And we have to create new sounds. And our workstations are just us implementing the best of, or what we hope is the best of, an analog design that we know best represents, you know, tone, and then trying to bring something new to these digital sounds. They're not just copy and paste type recipes. We actually, you know, listen to the devices, listen to the recordings, how is it represented, and how can we make it ever so slightly better? Like instead of it running away and repeating and getting louder and louder and just distorting your speakers, can we somehow get in there and manipulate it so that it's got a little bit of magic on it? So I think it's not an analog or digital, it's both for guitar players.
There are a couple of good questions here. We'll go with one that Toro can answer with yes or no, and only that.
Chances are I can.
Yes, you can. Where is it? I would like to see TC wah pedal with tone print. Is that possible?
Yes, but we probably won't, because Dunlop is doing a pretty damn good job of making an awesome wah pedal. So
That was more than yes or no. No one listens to me. In such a packed market, what do you think the market is missing as far as gear goes?
I don't think it's missing. It's not missing anything that I want. There is a lot of gear out there. It's a golden age, as everyone has said. So you can buy pretty much whatever you want. The challenge for me comes when everyone starts talking about price, and it's a very contentious issue because you look at something and you say, "Oh, pick your price point. Pick your acceptable price point. Is it $50? Is it $100? Is it $200? Is it $500? Wherever your acceptable price point is, that's what you think is too expensive." Fact is,
the D&M pedals kind of really...
Yeah, $2,000. Yeah, $2,000 if you buy it from us. So everybody wants better for cheaper, and all I would say about that. So to answer the question, what is the market missing? Everything cheaper, which is the customer expectation. All I would say about that is think about your job. Think about what you do for a job and say, could this be done cheaper by somebody else, somewhere else? And would I be prepared to stop doing that job so that someone else can do it to get paid less money? It's the same when you build gear, and it's the same when you make guitars or effects or amplifiers built by human beings in parts of the world that get paid reasonable wages and do good work and have good lives, as we all expect to do. So it's a little bit political, but that's what I say. What is the world missing? Cheaper gear. There's enough cheap gear out there, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's also missing a theremin-operated expression pedal tool.
Okay, this is halfway decent. We'll take that. Sorry, Jeffrey, I said halfway. No, it's actually a good question. This is not a question. Henning has way too many guitars. It's not a question. Questions, people. What was everyone's first pedal? For me, my brother bought it for me because I didn't have enough money with me, and it was a Boss EQ, something band EQ. I had one of those little, in Germany we call them Brüllwürfel, scream cubes, the little beginner amp in 1990. It was just these horrible little amps, and we put a little EQ in front of it, and that made it differently horrible. So that was my first pedal. Boss, I think GEQ7 or whatever it's called, something like this.
The Boss Super Feedback Distortion.
Mine was the Korg Axe 1G multi-effects processor, and I still have it. 14 years old, still have it.
So my first pedal was two pedals because a friend of my parents was a friend of John Hyatt's, and apparently for some reason he got two pedals from John Hyatt, and I got them somehow. So it's the first green Boss phaser. I can PH2 maybe. You probably know that better than I do, and the DM2 that did the analog delay. So those were my two first pedals.
That's cool.
Yes, I do.
That's quite cool. Mine were two as well, because I walked into the shop and bought them on the same day. One was a Boss Super Overdrive, and the other was an Arion Tuner.
Tuner? Way too civilized.
Are still pedals, man.
No, I got mine first effect here in Germany at the Music Klimmer in Kaiserslautern. It was a Boss HM2, of all funny things. Exactly.
Mic drop, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole musical style built around that pedal.
Yeah,
I just want to say that because, yesterday there was we had, where is he? There you go. You had a T-shirt on with the HM2, and there's some comments about that, and I almost ran on stage because that is literally the sound of Swedish death metal.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
With those settings cranked all the way up, that's the shit.
Mm-hmm. I saw that shirt too. I thought it was pretty incredible, and it's amazing. Is there any other pedal that has objectified or classified as the whole style of music? Is there any? I don't think so. Nothing as obvious as the HM2. Yeah.
That was Colin from CS Guitars, by the way, who had that T-shirt on.
Colin.
All right.
The sad thing is, I would have a billion questions for all of you. They would have more. We could sit here for 7 hours straight and not shut up.
Gotta bring me more.
People said, why are you doing GuitCon for 5 days? What are you going to do 5 days? I'm like, guys, 5 days is nothing. We'll be here on Friday and like, but we still have ideas. Let's do videos. And I still haven't done a single one. Thanks guys for being here. We're gonna clean up the stage, and I heard that Dan and Mick will want to do something with a certain lady on stage. That sounds wrong, I'm sorry.
It's not that kind of conference, my friend.
We're going to do some music, bring up some people who hopefully prepared things, and have a good time, and do this again tomorrow, same place, same time, Warwick channel. You will probably see this uploaded on some channels. I got some SD cards from people, so you'll see this talk again somewhere. And thanks for tuning in, people, and I do not have too many guitars. If Leslie sees this, it's not good that you write this. It's just enough. No, not enough. +1. +1. Just like with pedals and amps.
It's always the
current number +1. Thanks, guys, and we're going to clean the stage. Bye-bye.